I'm Babs, and I'm here today to talk to you about how to run a legit business without hiring expensive lawyers. Now, I know that for small businesses and for online entrepreneurs, this is a concern, this is something you worry about, but it's either never seen as a priority or seen as far too expensive and something that you'll deal with down the line when you have more money. So I'm going to talk to you today about why this doesn't need to be so difficult, it doesn't need to be so expensive, but why it is imperative that you do it right now. So this is what we're going to talk about today. So first of all, we're going to look at how to set your business up the right way. And contrary to what lawyers and accountants might have told you, it's not actually as complicated as they would like to make out. We're going to have a chat about how you can make sure that you have the right contracts in place when it comes to your clients. What do you do if your clients want a refund? What do you do if your clients have a complaint? We're going to cover all of that today. We're then going to look at best practice in terms of how to protect your ideas and your business interests from competitors, from people that work with you, work for you. How do you know that they're not stealing your things and using them with their own clients? And then we're going to have a look at how to comply with the data protection rules that everybody's wrangling with at the moment. So overall, at the end of this seminar today, you will have a really good idea of how to run a legitimate business online. So first of all, let me tell you a little bit about me. So I'm Scotland born and bred, as you can probably tell from the accent. I trained as a lawyer in Scotland, and since then I've also qualified in the US. So I'm UK and US qualified. I've passed the bars and admitted to the bar in New York and California. I mainly specialise in working with small businesses, mainly online businesses. I deal with client contracts, supplier contracts, data protection rules, intellectual property, trademarks, all that kind of thing. All the things that you need to set up a business properly and safely. I've also been running an online fitness business until recently, and so I really understand the demands on online entrepreneurs' time, and I also understand the business that we're dealing with when we're working online. For the last few years, I've been working with small businesses to make sure that they have peace of mind when they're running their business, so that they know that they don't have to worry about anything, they have contracts in place, and they have someone that they can talk to if they're struggling. So what are your main worries when it comes to running your business properly? Now, I know profit, getting clients in the door, revenue are all the biggest factors that you're thinking about at the moment. And frankly, they are the most important. Without these things, you don't have business. But very second to this in terms of importance is checking that you have protected yourself properly. If you have not protected you and your business properly, you leave yourself wide open to potential risks and potential money and reputation damage. So I'm assuming that these are your main concerns if you're watching this webinar. Maybe you're not sure if you set your business up properly. Maybe you think you're paying too much tax, although you're not quite sure. You're unsure if you're meant to be charging your clients tax. You've heard about VAT, you know that there's a certain threshold at which it applies, but you don't know if you're meant to be charging it. You don't know what to do if you have a customer complaint, and so you end up just giving them their money back because you're not 100% sure of your position. You don't know how to have protections in place to make sure that nobody is stealing your clients or your ideas or the things that you are putting out in the marketplace. And lastly, you've maybe heard of GDPR, you know there's something going on with data protection, you know you have to do something, but you're not sure what it is. Or more scarily, you think that it doesn't apply to you. Is any of this familiar? If it is, you need to keep listening now. So let's have a look at this. Have any of these things ever happened to you? Contracts come into your business from other companies that you need to sign, but you don't actually understand what they involve. You have a read through, there's a lot of words that don't really make sense to you, but sure, it'll be fine, so you sign. Or you're setting up a website and your developer tells you that you need terms and conditions and a privacy policy in place. You can't afford a lawyer to do that, so you just download some random template from the internet and upload it and hope for the best. You take money from your clients, they ask for refunds, and you just have something on your website that says no refunds. or you happen to mention it to a client on a call, this is non-refundable, but you're not actually confident that you're allowed to do that and you're a little bit unsure. Do you ever wish you had someone to turn to when you were struggling with all of this? If any of this applies to you, you are not alone, okay? So don't worry at all. So many online businesses are in the exact same position as you, and what they do is they open themselves up to so much risk in terms of money, in terms of their reputation, and they're making these nervous, anxious decisions day in, day out. And some of these decisions, if not all of them, can have significant consequences if you get them wrong. We offer a coaching program which offers practical hands-on advice from people that have been in the industry, that have ran an online business and understand the demands, not from some stuffy lawyer sitting in a legal firm who deals with corporate transactions and massive mergers and doesn't actually understand the struggles that you're facing. You have to also bear in mind as well that if you go to a big law firm, you're talking about £300 an hour to get any advice from them, and that is just not achievable or even in the realms of possibilities for a lot of online businesses. If you would like to have a call to discuss your business and how to protect it, you can click the link below this webinar and that will take you to a form that you can fill in to arrange a chat. Otherwise, you can continue to watch this webinar. So let's dive into the things that we said we were talking about at the start of this webinar. So first of all, how can you set your business up in the right way? So there are lots of different ways, but broadly you have kind of two options. You can either go as a sole trader to start with, or you can operate as a limited company or a limited liability company in the US. If you operate as a sole trader, there are very little formalities you need to do at the start. You just start operating. You enter contracts into your name, you offer services to clients in your name, you're just running as an individual. If you run a business like that, you still need an accountant, but you don't have any of these annual filings or anything you might have heard about to be made, except your annual tax return. But you still have to keep proper books and records because you could still be investigated by HMRC at any time, and it may come in handy if you are ever involved in any sort of legal action. Now, the problem with running as a sole trader, although it is easier and simpler and much more flexible, is that you have unlimited liability. So what does that mean? Well, that means that if somebody has an issue with your service, with the product you're providing, they can come after you personally. What does that mean? Well, that means they can come after your house, they can come after your car, they can come after your family's things, the money you have in the bank. None of that is protected. So if you are sued and for whatever reason you lose, you personally have to repay that money. And if that's way more than you can afford, you will be made bankrupt. It's a horrible fact, but it is true. This is the other option, which a lot of people shy away from. Now, you can set up a limited company or a limited liability company in the US. Now, people tend to shy away from this when they're startups for a couple of reasons. They think that they're overly complicated to set up, but they also think that you have to be bringing in a certain amount in order to set up a limited company. Both of these things are wrong. It costs £10 in the UK and not much more in the US. And you can do it yourself online if you want to set up a company. You don't need to hire someone, you don't need an accountant to set it up for you, you don't need a lawyer. You can literally do it online, and it is really easy, it takes a couple of days. You still need an accountant. This time you need to make annual filings, so you need to confirm online what's going on in your business, who the directors are, who the shareholders are on an annual basis. But again, this is not a difficult process as long as you are organised and have the dates in mind. Accountants and lawyers and business advisors everywhere will try to tell you that this is a difficult process. It is not. You still have to keep proper books and records, but the most important thing to be aware of is that with a limited company, you have limited liability, not unlimited liability like we spoke about before. So what does that mean? Well, limited liability basically means that if someone is suing you for the product you've provided, the services you've provided, they can only sue the company. They cannot come after you personally. If you've invested £100 in your company, That is the most they can take. You are not going to be liable for anything else. You won't have to pay over anything else. By far, the most protective way to set up your business is to run as a limited company. Don't worry about how much money you're bringing in. Don't worry about it being a cumbersome process to set up. You want to run as a limited company in order to offer yourself the most protection. Now, ultimately, you can take other legal advice on this. You can take accounting advice if you wish, but they will take you to broadly the same conclusion, which is a limited company, although there's a few more filings to be made and an initial £10 setup fee, it's more protective for your interests as an individual. Now we're going to talk about how to make sure you have the right contracts in place with your client without bothering them, without sending off things to get scanned and asking them to read through things. I know you don't want to annoy your clients. You've worked hard enough to get them on. You've sold to them. You want to just go ahead and provide the service. So what do you do? Well, what you don't do is just download a template document from the internet, send it across to them, and hope for the best. Why not? What is so wrong with that? Surely if it's online, it must be right. Well, not necessarily. Firstly, it's probably not suited to the country you're working in. I deal with a lot of clients who run companies in the UK, and I read their terms and conditions, and they're written by a US company. They don't make any sense in the UK, and they wouldn't be held enforceable in a UK court if anything were to go wrong. The document you've downloaded is probably way overkill as well. It might not be suitable for consumers if you're dealing with individuals. It might not be suitable for the type of service you're providing. It might just not make sense. And to be perfectly honest, you probably don't even know what the complicated terms mean. Most people wouldn't. They're usually these templates, they're full of legal mumbo jumbo, they're full of jargon, they just don't make sense. Why would you sign a contract that doesn't make sense? You'd be as well not having one. So how can you protect yourself here? Well, you can have a lawyer prepare one set of terms and conditions, not countless sets that you need to do for each client, one set of terms and conditions, and you can either send them to the client at the time you're providing the service and say, you are only going ahead with this if you agree with these terms and conditions, or what you can do is have them e-signed so they can sign online to show their approval, which is a good indication of the fact that they've read them as well. There is no need anymore in this day and age to have a client print out their contract, sign it, and scan it back to you. That's cumbersome, it's not good for an efficient business, and it's not good for a great customer experience. So what is the best practice to protect your ideas and your clients from being taken by your staff? Well, first of all, you want to make sure that your client terms and conditions cover your intellectual property, okay? So we're not just talking about staff here, we're talking about anybody. You don't want anybody to be able to take the things that you have put time and effort into producing. If you're selling programs, if you're selling products, if you're selling courses, you want everybody out there to know that that is your property and that they can't take that and send it to other people, or worse, make money from it. You want to make sure that you have a contract drawn up by a lawyer that deals with your contractors, so the people that help you in your business on a day-to-day basis. It's likely you're working with contractors and not employees, but again, that's something to consider from a legal perspective. But you want to make sure that you are properly protected and that no contractor or employee that works with you is going to be taking your things and using them as their own. You want to make sure your trademarks are registered. If you have a logo, if you have a business name, you want that registered as a trademark so that if somebody does steal it, you can do something about it. And you also want to make sure that your website has the right intellectual property disclaimers, which basically says, this is my copyright, this is my trademark, you can't use it without my consent. All of this makes it much easier if someone does try to steal something to actually stop them. Now we're going to look at data protection. So we've all probably heard about GDPR. It sounds scary. You might not think it applies to you. I am telling you, there is a 95% chance that it does. If you handle any personal data, that means somebody else's name and email address. That is how small it is. You are having to be in compliance with GDPR, and you have to register with the Information Commissioner's Office if you are based in the UK. Now, you can register with them at www.ico.gov.uk. It is probably going to be a £40 annual fee for most people, but that is a legal requirement and you have to register with the ICO. You would be astounded by how many small businesses don't realise that they have to do that, and it is a legal requirement. You have to be looking at your business and trying to work out, do you know what data you hold on your clients? Do you know what clients and prospective clients and old clients you're allowed to contact to market to them, to sell to them? I would suggest that most people don't actually have the permission to contact their clients or other people for marketing purposes. Do you have a privacy policy in place? Is it on your website? Is it on your landing page? Do you have a cookies policy in place? Do you delete personal data after a certain amount of time? Are things encrypted? Are things password protected? Are you keeping data secure? If you were investigated by the ICO tomorrow, would you pass? If the answer to any of the above is no, you would not pass. And the scary thing about this is the Information Commissioner's Office in the UK, and it's the same for any other regulatory body for data protection around the EU, can fine you €20 million or 4% of your worldwide annual turnover, whichever is greater. Okay, so even if you're a small business, they can fine you up to €20 million for failing to comply with this. This is no joke. Then we go on to some of the other things that can happen if you're not having all your legal things in place the way they should. If your business is not properly protected, if you're not set up properly, what else can happen? Well, if you need to sue someone or you have to be sued, it's more than likely you're going to go to the small claims court in the UK or town and village or county courts in the States of America. I'm using New York as an example here. So you go to these courts for different levels of claims. So you can go to a small claims court in England for up to £10,000, £5,000 in Scotland and £3,000 in Northern Ireland. For claims up to $3,000 in New York, you're going to go to the town and village courts, and up to $5,000, you're going to go to the city courts in New York. So what do these processes involve? Well, you should know that they are very long, very lengthy, will take a lot of your time and will take a lot of your money. Now, the actual court costs aren't massively expensive. You're talking probably £1,000. But if you add in your time on top of that and legal fees, now if you win any case, you are entitled to your expenses back, but that doesn't cover your legal expenses. That's only your court fees. So if you spend £2,000 to £3,000, which is a drop in the ocean with a lawyer, it could be way more, you don't have any right to claim that back, even if you win. Okay, so it is imperative that your business is set up properly, logistically, effectively, and legally to make sure that this risk is kept at a minimum. So let's have a look at the cost of traditional legal advice to get all these things in place that I've spoken about today. If we were just to deal with the basic areas that I have discussed today, these minimum things that you have to have in place to make sure your business is legit, this is what it would cost. Now, I have the figures here in pounds, but I have this final figure in US dollars as well. So if you're over across the pond, you can get an idea of figures here too. So you would need help setting up a company. About £500 if you pay a lawyer to do it, a little bit less for an accountant. You have to have terms and conditions for your website. If anybody uses your website, even if they don't make a purchase over it, there should be terms and conditions. They can still steal your things, right? You need terms and conditions for your customers. You need a privacy policy for data protection. You need a cookies policy. You need a GDPR internal data protection policy that sets out how you deal with personal data, what systems you have in place, what encryption software you use, what passwords you have in place. You need all of that. And that is something you would need specific legal advice on for your particular business. Something that a traditional law firm would take lots of time to pull together and work through with you, and it could even be more than £800 because they're not necessarily familiar with your type of business. An application to the Information Commissioner's Office from a lawyer is about £200. Looking at contracts with your contractors or your staff, your employees, about another £800. If you're looking for advice on whether you have employees or whether you have contractors and what the tax implications are of both and what you have to pay in respect of both, which one's easier, you're looking at about £700 minimum for that. And then for on-hand support and guidance to help you through the process of setting up your business, of putting all this in place, of answering any questions that you have, that is minimum £2,000. Minimum. Remember, this is all charged at an hourly rate. So the approximate cost for all of this from a traditional law firm in the UK is at least £7,000. Now, US legal fees go way, way above this, but if you were to directly relate that to US dollars, $8,700. It is staggering, and that is a minimum price you would have to pay. Remember, lawyers charge by the hour. Every time you go back with a question, every time you phone in, anytime you query anything, the clock starts. So let's look at the easier and cheaper solution to solve all of these issues. So my company offers an 8-week coaching program where you cover all of these areas at a fraction of the price that you've just seen in the last slide. A fraction of the price. You receive all the documents you need to keep you on track, whether you're in the UK or the US. You'll understand your legal position properly. You'll be set up legitimately, safely, properly. You'll be learning from a lawyer who's run their own online business, me, and you'll be kept accountable every week of the coaching program to make sure that you do the set tasks. This program isn't going to take a significant amount of your time, but it is going to significantly help your business. It's going to protect you, and most importantly, it's going to make you feel like everything is in control. This coaching program involves an opportunity to ask questions on a weekly basis. Remember what I said, lawyers normally charge by the hour. You're not going to be charged by the hour here. There will be ongoing support and guidance in a group setting. There will be a group where you can ask questions, where you will get help, you will get tips that you need. You will have the comfort of knowing that your business is protected. This is nothing to lose sleep over anymore. You will have everything in place. You'll have your contracts in place, your property will be protected, your business will be protected from being attacked from clients, from competitors, from staff, from government authorities. And remember, this is not just for UK businesses. I am qualified in New York and California. This is also for people that are running businesses in the US. So are you done with worrying about whether you're doing things right and just winging it and hoping for the best? If you've had enough of worrying about whether you're paying too much tax, what to do when customers complain, whether you're going to be fined or investigated by the ICO, by any other government body, then get in touch now. Let's book in a free consultation to discuss your individual business requirements. We'll go through what you're doing, what you're trying to achieve, and the best way for you to move forward to make sure that you are appropriately protected going forward. Now, there are limited slots available on this coaching program, so I need you to get in touch now to make sure that you secure your place at a fraction of the cost of traditional legal and business advice. So if you would like to proceed and have a call with me, free consultation call to go through all of your business and to set in place a plan for moving forward, click the link below and fill in the form, and we'll be in touch really soon. I look forward to hearing from you. I can't wait to work with you, and have an amazing day.